For college teachers, has any student ever tried to bribe you? The student was a woman, let's call her S. S isn't very good at anything. She was allowed into the staff kitchen to make some tea for the practice exams. The reason for this is because she had a very privileged life with servants and no need to work due to daddy's money. Daddy passed away and was in tons of debt, so there was no inheritance. So she thought, I'll go to college to get an education while I figure it out. S is extremely outspoken and interrupts me constantly. She also never does her homework. All of my class know that it is an exam-only module where 100% of the marks come from a final exam. I've written tons of notes in her personal records, well, type them as they're not electronic, about how she doesn't do her homework and how I think she will fail. She thinks homework is beneath her too. I gave her and the rest of the class the practice exam. The students start working furiously as the time limit is very tight. She sits there and stares at it. I send the students out for break after 2 hours and mark furiously in the hour lunch break. All but 2 people have passed the practice exam. S and another student who got 2 insta-fail questions wrong. I SMS message each of the students to come see me one by one and I give them feedback and what to work on. It goes well for all the students. They say, thank you, and I give them some reading to do to buff up on the areas they needed more marks and noted it for Tuesday next week for a workshop class. At the very end was S. S had scored 0 marks. She came into the faculty room and immediately started to make excuses about her performance. I couldn't get a word in for about 20 minutes. My colleague on his desk puts on his headphones and cranks up the volume. I can hear the tinny sounds across the room. I finally get a word in and say that is all irrelevant and that the exam soon isn't enough time to sort out her weaknesses as the gap in knowledge is just far too large. I say to her you can do the lower level exam instead, which she might have a chance at. She says no, I need it for my job. I said what job? She said I don't know. So how do you know you need it? My friend said I needed it. And your friend is? She's just somebody I know from church who doesn't work. She's getting angry now and I'm pressing the silent security button in my pocket. She is very suddenly quiet and says she'll do anything to pass. I say it's pointless because it's an externally marked module. I don't get to see the exam papers. I can only infer what might be on the exam papers from old papers. She says I can't do that and I have to help her, as in cheat in the exam to help her pass. I'm not even going to be in the same county when the exam happens as I'm at a conference. Security quietly makes their way into the faculty office and she says I'll do anything and says I can have a night with her. I ask her to leave and remind her of the exam soon. Security walks her out of the building. I turn to my colleague and ask him he saw that right? He says yes and we go into cover our asses mode. I get the SD cards out of the cameras I have in my office, they're car dash cameras, and back them up and upload them to several secure locations. I also go to IT admin and ask them to preserve the CCTV of my office. I then write a report to my boss detailing a potential false allegation. I have a horrible feeling on Monday there will be a complaint against me and my colleague. We have tons of video evidence and witnesses from the security guards too. I will probably be put on a few days administrative leave, so I'm planning to go fishing at a lake nearby for a few days. It has to go through a process that assumes we're guilty and then get cleared after going through multiple reviews. I hate it when that happens. I was also asked to give a speech. I kept it short. Thank God I do not have more sisters, otherwise Tim would have swapped Mia with one of them. You know he has a fetish of effing his fiancée's sisters behind her back. Me and Jay were asked to leave. The next day I was bombarded with messages and phone calls. I didn't pick any of them. As for Jay, he stuck to our deal and I never saw him again. After the wedding incident, I decided I should find my mom because something in me was telling me that she didn't abandon me. It wasn't hard to find her. I found her on Facebook and we started chatting. She is married and has 2 boys, my half-brothers. I got the real story from her. She didn't abandon me. My father won the custody case. He used my mom's past substance abuse to take away her visitation rights too. We reconciled and for the first time in my life I felt welcomed. I also met my stepfather and my 2 brothers. They are amazing people. Since then, I would regularly meet them. 2 years after the wedding incident, I met a guy, Andy. We met during an alumni program in our college. He also went to our college, but he was 5 years my senior. We had a lot in common. He was kind, sweet and very mature. He knows about my past and has been really supportive. He was better than Tim in every other way. He was charming and had a really higher position in his job. After 2 years my sister contacted me out of the blue and told me she was pregnant and she now wants to bury the hatchets. I was very reluctant. I was afraid that she would try to steal Andy away from me as well. But Andy reassured me he is not that weak. Honestly, I do wanted to meet Dad again. So, I gave it a shot anyways. I went on dinner with Andy. And to my surprise Tim recognized him. It was later revealed to me that Andy was basically Tim's boss. This is the fact I didn't know. My dad and stepmom brought me to a corner and said that my relationship with Andy is unacceptable because I'm trying to hurt my sister by dating Tim's boss. I told them to F off. My love life is none of their business. The dinner went sour. After that I got a drunken call from Tim that he is very unhappy with my sister and that he actually wants to escape. He never knew what he lost until he saw me with Andy. I ignored him totally. Then the phone calls didn't stop. First it was my dad telling me that me dating Andy is causing tension between my sister and Tim. I told him their marital life is none of my business. I got call from my stepsister who asked if she could come to my house and talk. I told her after the dinner party, I want nothing to do with any of them. That TCH didn't listen. Instead she went to Andy's office to convince him to talk to me. Of course Tim saw this and accused her of trying to seduce Andy like he seduced him. Long story short, Andy had to fire Tim for his misbehave. This caused even more tension. Tim became verbally abusive towards Mia and said his life was ruined because of her. They separated. Tim is trying to figure out how can he handle the divorce proceedings. After the Tim and Mia drama, my dad suddenly showed up in my apartment. He was bawling his eyes out that he caught Karen sleeping with his male cousin. He was devastated. So, I told him what he said to me when Tim cheated on me. Karen fell out of love with you, so she fell in love with your cousin. You should give them your blessing instead of being petty. My dad was confused. I further told him, well, you taught me this, remember? When I was sad about Tim cheating on me with Mia. You told me to forgive them. My father's face was rotten to say the least. Now I have 2 family members who are going through divorce. Tim and Mia tried to reconcile, but eventually they settled for divorce. My dad did apologize to me for what he did to me and Mom. I told him that he deserved what's coming for him and that I have no feeling left for him. Not even pity. If the time ever comes I might forgive him, but I don't want him anymore. He will not be walking me down the aisle. Andy and I are recently engaged. We are having a small ceremony with just close friends and family. I was only planning for a petty revenge, but karma got them better. I looked at a document that was titled "B Words Love Being Out of Pocket." It was massive, like 100 pages, and there were subheadings for different topics. It seemed like a collection of out-of-pocket things any of them had said. Each one was cited with the name of which one of them had said it. As I was scrolling through I saw my name under a subheading Men. Here's what it said, paraphrased: he seems like the kind of man to purchase LinkedIn Premium. I feel like he jerks off to his own Instagram stories. There's no way that at least once in his life he hasn't removed a girl's tampon with his teeth. They were all signed with my girlfriend's name. I'd felt bad about snooping until then, but after that I really wanted to see if there was anything else about me. I looked through the rest of that file and there were insults about basically everyone they'd ever met, including about every man my girlfriend had ever been with. Honestly, mine were way less mean than theirs. I guess that's a positive? There was also a folder with presentations it seemed like my girlfriend had made and presented before each semester in college. They were all titled something like roster or to H words and the date, and they had a slide for every man she was talking to, as well as a recap for whoever she'd done over break. Of course I was there, with my full name and pics of me and a picture of my car too. The only description of me was 6/10, bought me cigs and let me use a flavored latex. There were also a lot of pics and videos of them doing illegal/disgusting things, and there were some very mean things about other men they knew, like ranking them on the loser scale. The only other thing I saw about me was in a folder titled Life-Changing Moments that had a list for each of them. There were a lot of insane things in my girlfriends that I'd never heard about. Think, intimate disease from unprotected intimacy with frat brother or Vespa ride with hot Italian man or smoked a pack and threw up. There was also one about me which basically said, effed blank and realized I needed to get out of my for the streets era if I didn't want to end up being a sad sack of crap too. That is the one that really got me, as it seemed so much meaner than everything else, and I have no idea what she meant by it. It was getting close to the time she would be back though, so I just closed everything and locked her laptop. She got back, I didn't mention anything, and we just had dinner as normal. I am here now because I have absolutely no idea what to do. Everything I saw was honestly awful, and yet she is the last person I would ever expect something like this from. I am in disbelief and I really don't know where to go from here. I am hoping there is some explanation that doesn't make her the world's worst person, and yet I really don't want to confront her either. We have a great thing going and I don't see any way that confronting her isn't going to lead to drama. I don't want to talk to anyone I know about this, in case we stay together and she then has to face them, so I thought I would ask here and see if anyone had any reason to apply to this completely absurd situation.